Life, the disposition that characterized the heart of Our Lady, so that an example of her we can also be a true Christian, always bringing Jesus in her lap, to present him to those who do not know him yet. When we come across the condition of human existence, we invariably ask ourselves, why suffering? Why are we to be plagued by so many conflicts, disasters, problems? The media currently explores this dark side of existence. Natural disasters, wars, terrorism, broken families, people dying of hunger, people trying to survive in totally unworthy condition. Faced with this tragic picture of human life, some will seek answers. Others will only conform. The most skeptical will come that things are anyway, because of human selfishness, adding that suffering is the greatest proof that God does not exist. That God is not good. For if God existed, he would not allow suffering. Father Fabio, what is the meaning of suffering in our lives? God bless us. A big hug. Jose Marcos, suffering, he is born. First, we need to make a distinction. When we talk about suffering, we are talking about a limit. I can live this limit in my flesh. When I cut my finger, I feel pain. Suffering is physical. When I break a bone, when I cut myself, when I hurt myself, I live the experience of physical suffering. When you are sick, when we have a fever, we see body discomfort. This, we all pass all the time. We are fragile, right? And because my body is fragile, I need to protect it. If I take a lot of sun, I risk having cancer skin. Why? Because I know my skin has a limit. And when this limit is disrespected, my body suffers. And we have another kind of suffering, which is a spiritual suffering, that we can also call the suffering of the mind, right? When I get worried about something, when I lose peace because the problems are around me. Spiritual suffering, mental, psychic suffering, right? They are unfolding of suffering. Sometimes I find people who suffer a lot because they are being slandered. Then they lose their sleep, lose their quality of life. They live depressed processes. And you cited several consequences. Various situations in which we identify human suffering. I suffer because I am limited. And truth, when someone dies in my life, I suffer. Why? Because of the limit of life. The other was limited. He is precarious. He suffers from precariousness. He is created. Everything that is a creature dies, goes to the end. The other had to die. Why? Because it was limited. There comes a time when the body runs out. You can no longer continue. Aging is like this. We are losing the vitality of the body. And the moment the other dies, I begin to face my limits. I will miss him. I will miss him. So you see, suffering will permeate human life all the time because the limit is part of our statute. Where you have a person, there you have the limit experience. And the limit, it will always be an experience of suffering. But we need to identify that there are two ways to pay attention to this limit. A first, which is quite pessimistic, which is when I begin to think my limits and the limits of others as a hindrance to our happiness. And then we fall into these phrases made in these simplistic answers who say so. God does not exist, because if he exists, he would not allow suffering. This is something we hear all the time. But let's be honest, this is a very naive perspective. It belongs to a context of idealization. A person who idealizes life a lot will think that everything has to be perfect, handsome, ordained, happy. And then we often say that God does not exist because the limit exists. So I see suffering. I can't believe God can exist. Why? This is a way of understanding suffering, a pessimistic view of it. But On the other hand, we can have an optimistic view of suffering. I begin to understand my limit as an opportunity I have to live the experience of care. For example, let's say you went to travel, bought a beautiful piece that needs care to be transported, because otherwise it breaks. You see, what are you going to do? You will pack this piece. You will coat care. You will be cautious to take good care of the coating of this piece so that it reaches your destination. Let's say you will send a gift, so you know that the gift you are sending is fragile. You don't want to break halfway. So you will take care of you, will pack in a right way so that when you arrive to the recipient, the piece is not broken. The piece breaks. This is limit. It is not unbreakable. It is not free from damage, the possibility of damage. But then I will make me revise this care situation so that it can last. And then we have the positive dimension of suffering. When suffering points us to a care we need to take. This care can be physical. It can be psychic. It can be mental. Let's say my body. I felt a pain in my shoulder. My body is warning that something is not well. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to look for a doctor to know what's wrong with my shoulder. It is a form of care. Pain is a positive sign. It is the body sending a message. That's why I am terrified of people who feel pain and don't go to the doctor. My mother lost a view because of this story. Every time she found me, it's funny, I'm feeling a nuisance in that eye. Then I spoke. Mother, you have to go to the occupational. Pasita month. I found Ana. Her again. It did so. Funny, the side is blurry here. Then I told her, Mom, I'm not an occupational. It's no use telling me. Then there was a day that had a terrible pain. There was a nervous state there. Confusion that happens indoors. So you see, Donna Anna's eye began to give symptoms. Began to indicate that something was not well. Life is like this. So often, pain signals. This physical suffering signals to a care we need to take. Let's talk about mental suffering. You start to get bothered by something you are thinking. So you are losing sleep because of that. My God. And every time you go to sleep, you keep thinking about it. If you do not make a decision in the face of what bothers your mind, it is no use suffering. Suffering will be in vain. Now, if you take a position, then say what is bothering me is a practical situation. I am seeing my son do this. This is not pleasing me. Or I see that person do this. Is not pleasing me. I go there and I try to solve. Or I try. I am being slandered. I go there and try to solve the slander. I try to clarify things, and you go back to sleep right. Ready? The suffering that was bothering you, you interpreted him positively, did something around that, and solved the situation. A psychic suffering, for example. So suddenly you are feeling jealous. You have a disordered jealousy of your boyfriend, your girlfriend. And when you feel this jealousy, you get aggressive. It's a symptom of something that is wrong with you. If you do not take this suffering and interpret it positively, understanding that it signals to some limit you have and that you need to overcome, you will suffer in vain. And so, my people, why does hunger prevail in the world? Because it lacks solidarity. Missing people who do something, make decisions. Why does injustice prevail? We saw this week. It's unfortunate when we turn on our news to see what happens in Brazil, and we realize that our country is in the hands of irresponsible people. It was unfortunate to see that scene of those deputies, those advisors all receiving money that is not theirs. I am not making a judgment of a situation. I am already saying what was proven now. Of the bribes and the money that go inside the underwear, the socks, it is unfortunate. Now you see, it is we who put these people in power. We are the ones who delegate the power to manage our states, our country, our cities. If we have a corrupt mayor, we were the one who elected this mayor. Aristotle already said that politics is one of the most perfect expressions of kindness. But the true policy, which is of the good man who manages what is public, so that what is being administered can reduce the suffering of the administrators. The money administered diminishes the suffering of those who contributed, which are managed by those who were elected. So many sufferings in the world, many not all, somehow were caused by human hands. That's why it is very unfair to say that God does not exist because we suffer. God exists. Now suffering is a consequence of our wrong choices. You yourself today, you lived, you went out to work, and you made choices. You fed your suffering or others. Many times our human stance, my people, I see it in myself, how sometimes I impose suffering on others because of my way of being. It is very sad when we realize that our way of being makes the others suffer. Unjust this, right? That's why we need to be very aware. Does my action, my word, have my gesture have suffered or relieved? And if we don't make the decisions, if we don't change it, it is evolving and the world gets worse and worse. It is the thought, reflected, conscious action that is capable of transforming the structures of the world. The Church of Christ present in the world is for this, and to make you think of these structures. It is to make them come to those who do not know our word. What has become us? What has founded us on issues that we consider important? It is what has transformed our hearts. Because every Christian somehow has had the touch of the Spirit. Somehow it has already had contact with the content of the Word of Jesus, which releases, transforms, which saves, relieves the sufferings. It is very inconsistent for us to think that so many injustices are happening in countries that claim to be Christians. It is impossible to admit that laws such as abortion, for example, it is intrinsically bad. To kill someone is intrinsically evil. There is no excuses for that. The other day I received an email. I don't know if it's true. They say a woman appeared in a doctor's office and told him like this, "Doctor, I'm terrified that I have a 9-month-old son and I'm pregnant again. And I came here that I would like to have an abortion." And said the doctor looked at her and said, "Great, no problem." Then she was startled, right? "How, doctor? Are you crazy? Kill my son?" Then he looked at her and said, "My daughter, killing what is in the womb is the same thing. You will kill a child too. Horse, right?" Shocks when we look in the eyes and talk, so okay, don't kill what's in the womb. We kill what's out. It is just a way to show the absurdity that abortion is. My people, all this is taking over our conscience, precisely because it is missing us. We need to take care of us. We need to flood our hearts and minds. The Christian mindset, which is certainly able to soften the sufferings of the world. Because those who have God in their hearts will think 2, 3, 4 times before harming someone. Who has God in the heart will think 2, 3, 4 times before talking badly of someone, before defaming, before spreading bad things. Who has God in the heart will think twice before deceiving the other. So it is this Christian experience that makes this meaning of suffering appear, but not negatively, but positively. The suffering that is in the other is also in me. So we identify that this is the result of a limit, and we act from this limit to improve the world we live. I wish you, in your struggles, you always have the right and the possibility of removing your excesses. So you have before your eyes your fundamental truth, without exaggeration, just you. And from that, you meet the path of life. Thank you for your affection, for your attention, and may God bless you a lot. May God pour over your heart, over your home, over your home.